Hello, this is From Caracas and I am Rey Gómez. What happened on August the 4th during President Maduro's speech to the Bolivarian Army? Who are the authors of the terrorist attack against the President of Venezuela? What comes next? On this, I will talk with the Constituent Lawyer, María Alejandra Díaz. Please join us for the next few minutes.
How are you, Doctor?
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you very much. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Doctor, just for the first question, I want to start with the most basic. What happened on August the 4th?
On August the 4th, it was being celebrated an event where the anniversary was commemorated. One more anniversary of the National Guard, of the foundation of it. There are also acts where the entire military high command, the entire national executive, the state, president and minister, but there are also special guests, ambassadors, military chefs,
Part of the diplomatic corps
part
of
of the
the
diplomatic
Bolivarian
bloc,
Republic.
exactly, and also. Good representative and authorities, President and Vice President of the National Constituent Assembly, that is all the powers, all the representations, the powers of Venezuela. In that act, through two flying devices, in the case drones types directed to others, to the presidential state to be exploded with C4, which is the system that was used in this attack that was assassination in frustration degree.
What does it mean that Venezuelan laws might even be international laws also consider it with that figure assassination in frustration?
Let me explain you, because when for the very moment you plan a criminal act, well, that is not countries stay in intent.
And that's why
From
it's
the
called
point of view of the
frustration.
right. Of course, in this case was not only intention, there was planning, there was implementation, okay? Because the drones flew for reasons of strategies. Well, there was the inevitors worked, the presidential security worked, and in addition, they were detected in time, and it could be frustrated, so it was considered an attempt.
And it was planned.
That it was planned and stopped being an attempt because you tried to kill him already. You execute the act. The issue is that you unachieved the task.
And it wasn't done.
It didn't reach what you expected, which was the death of 70 or 60 people who were inside of the presidential state and wreaked havoc in Venezuela because you had finished with part of the military high command, the high command of the revolution, the national executive, and other guests from other special councils. It was really what they tried to do.
From there, it is inferred that it was not a common assassination, although the common assassination doesn't exist. And I mean, not only the President of the Republic could have died, but also much of the high representation in the state.
Yes, in the case of Venezuela, and other countries also, the other president is typified as assassination.
Exactly.
In the case of the rest of the people who were there was homicide in the degree of frustration, because you not could commit as you had planned, as you had executed. Why? Well, because there was something that prevented it. That's why it was frustrated. So we talk about frustration, but in this case, there was attempted homicide. In this case, was homicide frustration, but also in a certain way to commit a whole category of crime that was committed, that you were not trying to attack the president, as I say part of the executive and other military high command, and some special international guests, even very serious this situation.
In the case it had not been frustrated, what would have been the current situation in Venezuela?
I think it will be chaos, a situation where
What do you mean when you say they?
those who planned the act, we already have another clues. The fact was planned for Colombia, but funded about United States by some opponents and even former members of the National Assembly. You don't know how far can they reach these networks. So that was the National Assembly Constitution had to be painted immunity, or two deputies that have been directly appointed as intellectual actors of the planning of the act. Well, not in these countries. Fortunately, Venezuela exists a constituent process. The constituent process, what does this mean? That the Constituent National Assembly had to take control of the country to impose authority, and in other plans to recording what the Constitution establishes, new elections, impose order, take control of what? To avoid categorization, they were planning.
But wouldn't it be little power imposed by the National Constituent Assembly, taking into account that the National Constituent Assembly itself barnacles a superpower? It is practically a superstate.
Well, beyond that it's a superstate, I believe that is what needs to be understood is the scope of the constituent process. And according to the Venezuelan Constitution, the Constituent National Assembly, when it activates, it is activating the sovereignty power that is not to receive the country. And the election is made through a direct election. In our case, as a member of the Constituent National Assembly, voted 8 million people to choose and say, see, we want a constituent process. In the constituent process, according to the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the decision it takes cannot be objected by any other power. This means that it's established, and that scheme is designed in 1999 and others endorsed by the 74% of the population. This one's the first constitution that Venezuela has voted that people unaccepted. Then, in the case of the constituent power, it is the power that is above all the government. Of the constituent power, executive, legislative, and moral power, and electoral power. And we could, for example, say, look, we don't live with you, but we assume the functions.
But then it didn't happen like that.
No, because the model that Venezuela is planting is a eugenesis model, a convincing model of cohabitation, and the constitutional power with press constituted power.
And within that pre-constituted power, we even have the National Assembly.
And of course, even the president went to submit. For example, let's say the president went to present his credentials from the Constituent National Assembly. If he wanted to tell the president, good, cease your duties and assume the constituting functions until we shift the purpose that is to found the Republic and modify the Constitution, but two others, above everything, to guarantee peace. One should not forget that the commercial basis and the functions established in the rules of the operation of the National Constituent Assembly is to guarantee the peace in the country. You have to guarantee peace, of course. You have to restore the order they pretended to disturb in the first place, because you are obligated to comply with the Constitution, and is compelled to defend the nation as a constitution. You see? Then it was a process of chaotization, but from that, fortunately, in Venezuela, we have the Constitution National Assembly.
Having said all this and given the events of the 4th of August, I imagine that the National Constituent Assembly itself, as part of this process of revision, updating, refinement of Constitution, would have to introduce figures that in some way condemn what happened. For example, I reiterate, on Saturday, August the 4th, against the figure of the President of Venezuela, or modify some figures that in any way already had the condemnation of the acts of that nature.
Of course, in the case of the Article 200, in the case of parliamentary immunity, I think that the theory has to be clarified. I believe there is a quality of constitutional offenses. The attack on the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, which has been a behavior systematic by the part of the Venezuelan opposition, is not envisated as a constitutional offense. Then it is very difficult to deal with those who have been judged by these behaviors. There is no typing of it, It is very difficult to frame these behaviors as an attack of the Constitution. Then the Constitution has to look mechanisms to protect it and their state.
To close every possible escapaways.
And the national state, unfortunately, the Constitution in year 1999 didn't not previous in some cases. However, it does not have enough mechanisms because it hasn't, but no aim close enough to avoid and to cut the step, to cut the way to any attempt that is trying to the Diaz their skin ray. The recent years, the behavior of the Venezuelan opposition has been systematically of ignorance and resistance against the constitutional model.
Why was that the posture?
Well, because the Constitution breaks with the schemes of the representative democracy. Because the Constitution, in addition to others, breaks with the outline of the state's bourgeois, of that state that has with backs with the citizen, and imposes a new way of interpreting the Constitution and its reach to the judges. They have a task that is to accompany the changes, and not only to remain as a strong guest while the society is suffering. Then changes the vision of the judiciary power, change the visions of all the powers, incorporates the participation and the prominence of the people as a fundamental axis, that is the one who running the elites of the Venezuela for more than 40 years cannot be lied because they taking power for them. But there's another fundamental area that is an economic issue. The Venezuelan economic issue poses a social still democratic of law and justice. What does this mean? The state is out there for what? To ensure the weak leader has the same conditions and the same opportunities as these elites. Then it removes power to the elites. The entire background of resistance that has the Venezuelan opposition against the Constitution, one is the issue of the distribution of the wealth. And that is seen in the model established by the President Chavez. Before Chavez reached the 113% of the old revenue was going to the hand of a parasitic elite that didn't produce wealth of the country but appropriate them. After Chavez, especially the recovery of PDVSA, on 39%, 40 of them percent goes to the elite. Of course, they took away the hand of the golden eggs. Of course, you're going to react. That's part of the problem in Venezuela.
You just made a very important reflection, taking into consideration that President Nicolás Maduro himself and other authorities of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela attribute as a cause of what happened on the 4th of August, that attempted assassination, the plans that have already been attempted after the Venezuelan executive in the recent past, plans for economic renovation, and that must come into force from the 20th of August on.
Of course. Well, we have been holding that behind. All this strategy that culminated in the frustrated assassination and also in attempted homicide, frustrated homicide by these sectors to other officials of the high government and the high military command. Behind that, there are several linkages and economic motivations, and I'll give you two reasons of that. Within the analysis, there are those measures that affect, one, to the corporate world and the mafia of the smuggling of Colombia. Colombia has been the central axis, which this strategy has been delayed on a vision of the geometry occupation of Venezuela.
Why Colombia? For the mere fact of being bordering Venezuela?
Not only that, but that Colombia has been drawn this strategy, first to devalue the currency of the former, to buy dollars of drug trafficking off the cash, to also take part of the gasoline, subsidized fuel, and using the fuel only to legalize true lies, and pay tax and import to Copetrol that does produce gasoline, but it's the gasoline that is stolen from here. But besides that, gasoline is used to an amount to manufacture drugs. Colombia produces 68.5% of the world drug. Almost 70% of the worldwide rock of the cocaine that is produced in the world is produced in Colombia.
And where does it go?
Well, to United States and Europe. That is a great business. That is the merged economy which nobody wants to speak about, because the money is in American banks. But when the American launches the control, they register in the census of automobiles file of what is your consumption of gasoline. What comes after is probably, hey, because it is hypothesis, but they have not yet revealed this strategy. A direct subsidy to the ones who consume gasoline. I mean, we finance you. The Venezuelan state decides to finance you directly through the subsidy to a number of people who have been registered and have values, and you can check it.
And there would be a double objective, one, to protect the owner of the vehicle, and number two, to avoid escape through that way.
This measure affects the interest in Colombia. So it is planned in Colombia. They know why they come and also execute it. And for the other hand, there is a very important mention, that is the monetization of volumes of all the shares in the central bank of Venezuela, because you are refloating the central bank of Venezuela. That means that you manage to place those volumes in a monetary final transaction of sale of advance of all, and what is done. Because in this case, you will sell volumes of oil to the central bank of Venezuela. You can trade 200 million in a single operation. Because that small block of 29,284 million barrels gives, for example, for $600 million. Do you know what this means? The Central Bank of Venezuela begins to be the most powerful bank in the entire America, but also in the world. But you can change the way you do business, because you are attacking the Federal Reserve that has a machine that produces dollars, not to support. The dollar is a conflict currency, has no support at all. But we do. And also ensure the sovereign dollar to petrol, that in actually is an assure to oil.
So you are in a direct way
you are revealing the dollar, attacking the center of the economic war, that is devaluing the believer, and not to reach money to eat and buy things here in the country.
That's why that I had to be frustrated before the 20th.
So you have to be very careful what it can happen here from the 20th August. Very careful with a false positive from Brazil, from Colombia, from Guyana, or provocation of the islands. Because of NATO, Aruba and Curacao is very dangerous, and that the President has not revealed the whole strategy. The President has only shown the brushstrokes of the strategy, but only those who measures do it.
Guns have already risen up.
They have risen up guns, exactly. That from my humble opinion.
No, but it is a very harmonious analysis on what the opposition leaders themselves have said after the frustrated attack. What they have said not only on the social networks, but also on the traditional media, on television from the United States. This was one of the actions. Others will come.
Yes, just like that. They won't stop the intention of stopping this revolutionary process.
These aren't just simple threats.
No. They only can say they're threats, which is major to think that he has treated. No. There was an assassination. Well, but he was frustrated and protected the figure of the first national president through a scheme designed by the military house and the organisms of security that protected, and unfortunately, it didn't went further, but there are longer simple tricks. In fact, they cannot be simply traced, because if you analyze what is happening in the world with the world geopolitics, Venezuela is decisive in the global geopolitics, not only for the resources that it manages, for the geopolitical position that it has. Because the United States, which is one of the biggest consumers of oil in the world, that has no oil future, 4 years, sees in danger its stability to be an global hegemon. Because the energy that moves the capitalist model is oil, obviously. There is no substitute so far. And gas, oil and gas, and others in mention, well, coal and other alternative energies. But what moves the world, the capitalist system, hegemonical, is dominant, is oil. If you understand that this is happening already and you're running out, you do whatever it takes to get her. What is close to you? Venezuela. You need waters. What is closer to you? Latin America. I mean, the problem in Venezuela is the problem of all Latin America. So Chavez spoke about blah blah. He spoke Bolivia. Chavez, what it does is to recover the Bolivarian doctrine. So it's important that Latin Americans understand that only united we will be able to face the hegemon, which is not only the United States. There you have to be careful, because there are other interests of the European Union, there are interests of, in addition of the other power factors that really are the ones behind all the power in the world, which is invincible. That is the hand of the market that has a name, is the corporatocracy worldwide. That's why Venezuela is so important, what is happening with Iran. The Iran crisis is for oil. The attack that they have against Iran is because Iran achieved through the revolution independence, even technological, and has nuclear power. They cannot allow it because the vision from the United States, the imperial vision, always forgetting if the policy is first me, then I, and then I don't care about anyone else. For them, it's very easy to talk about that hermeneutical doctrine from the point of view of ending from a few billion human beings to the system to work. Some birth control plans, some abortion plans. So you have to be very aware of that, because the plan, for example, the International Monetary Fund is accompanied by abortion laws. And it seems that is a progressive idea, and it turns that it is beside the birth of power to ensure the resources to reach. That is Malthusian theory, this terrible thing, division. But obviously for them, the rest of the world is not important. That is the vision that they have since 1984.
They were born to be rich.
To rule the world. That is the vision. And the vision has not changed in the last 200 years. So that's
taking all this as a base, also taking advantage that I'm talking to a pure Venezuelan strain, it would also be interesting to reflect on what is coming next and how the Venezuelans should face what is coming next. Because normally the social psychology of the Venezuelans thinks as the attempt to assassination was frustrated, nothing happened, nothing will happen.
Well, I think the calm which the Venezuelan took this frustrated assassination was only a part. We know that there is a social movement that is being organized to defend itself, so that nobody believes that this town is not alert, at least know what can happen to a fight of that magnitude. And what I think is that it needs to be redefined. I redefine the theme of the popular organization, because you can have those earliest alternative ways of communication. For what? To avoid the also to resign to the chaos that was what they wanted personally. I think that we should take it into consideration. And the Venezuelan, we are very particular. We don't like anything imposed. We categorically refuse to be a slave, as we are the right leather. We trade to one house and rises to the other. We are irreverent by nature. We're also irrational when we make a decision. And in Venezuela decided to be free. I decided to our destiny and to make a result that is the certain possibility of becoming a power country. What we ask to the rest of the world to respect a reducible decision, irreversible, to be free, and to manage all our resources like we like.
Doctor, thank you very much for these reflections to Telesur in English.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Please be my guest.
Well, on the facts and the consequences of the terrorist attack against the President Nicolás Maduro, I have talked with the Constituent Lawyer María Alejandra Díaz. This is From Caracas for Telesur in English. I am Rey Gómez. Thank you very much. This Sunday, a special interview with the